Hello everyone, I'm Sarah of Rich Textures Crochet and welcome. Today we are going to learn how to crochet the Long Island Shawl. Now this shawl is an adaptation of my Briar Island shawl, which was originally a triangular shaped shawl. I had multiple requests to turn it into a rectangular one, so this is the result. There are more photos on my website at richtexturescrochet.com. Where you can see the full shawl displayed on a mannequin there. Now this shawl is a rectangular shape. It measures approximately 16 inches from the top down to the bottom, and then it's about 78 inches long. This of course can be adjusted if you would like. However, you're going to need a little bit more yarn if you want to make it larger. For the tutorial and for my shawl, I used the One Gradient Cake by Panda yarns. It's a 100% cotton yarn, and as you can see, it's made up of these little threads that are then changed gradually throughout the cake to give it this blended color. It's absolutely beautiful. There's about 1,600 yards of the cotton yarn per cake, so you're going to need one of these cakes if you'd like to make the shawl. It's a 5-ply yarn, and today I'm going to be using a 4mm crochet hook. That's a G crochet hook for those wondering. You can find a copy of the free written instructions on my website at richtexturescrochet.com. And today I'm going to work a swatch, so you may want to have those written instructions on hand just so you can see the final stitch counts, and that for the shawl. So thank you so much for joining me. While you're here, I invite you to take a look around. Don't forget to subscribe. This channel is updated every single week with free crochet patterns and stitch tutorials, and I will link the Briar Island shawl, so the triangular version of this shawl, up in the cards in the top right corner of this video. Let's grab our hooks and yarn and get started. Now our shawl today is worked in rows, and you're working from the top along that long straight edge all the way down to the bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by making a slip knot. You're then going to work a foundation chain, and as we're working along that long edge, we're going to start off by chaining 342 chains. Alternatively, you may work a foundation row of single crochet stitches of 341 single crochet stitches. If you are working the chain and would like to adjust the number of stitches in your foundation chain, you're going to need a multiple of 4 stitches plus 2. Today I'm going to work a swatch of the shawl just so you can see how it works. So I'm going to only work a small portion, and I'm going to start by chaining 30 chains. Once you have worked your foundation chain of 342 chains, you're going to begin row 1 by working a single crochet into the second chain from your hook, and then single crochet into each stitch all the way across. At the end of this row, you will have a total of 341 single crochet stitches. Your chain 1 does not count as a stitch. At the end of row 1, you're going to turn your work. We're now going to work a beginning cluster into the first stitch. To work your beginning cluster, you're going to chain 2 and then work 1 double crochet back into the same first stitch. That is going to be your beginning cluster. You're then going to skip the next stitch, and into your next stitch, work a cluster V-stitch. To work your cluster V-stitch, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook into that next stitch, yarn over, draw up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Then yarn over, insert your hook into the same stitch, yarn over, draw up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. With 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. That is a full cluster stitch. You're then going to chain 1 and work 1 more cluster stitch the same way back down into the same stitch. Yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, draw up a loop, yarn over and draw through 2 loops. Yarn over, insert your hook into the same stitch, yarn over, draw up a loop, yarn over and draw through 2 loops. You'll have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and draw through all 3 loops. So your cluster V-stitch is a cluster stitch, chain 1 and cluster stitch worked all into the same stitch. You're then going to skip the next 2 stitches and work a cluster V-stitch into your next stitch. You're going to repeat this all the way across, skip the next 2 stitches, cluster V-stitch in the next stitch, repeat that all the way across until you have 3 stitches remaining. At the end of your row 2, when you come all the way across, you'll have worked your V-stitch, skip the next 2 chains. You have 3 stitches remaining. You're going to work a cluster V-stitch into the next stitch. Then skip the next stitch and work 1 cluster stitch into your final stitch. So yarn over, insert your hook into that final stitch, yarn over, drop a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops, repeat, yarn over, insert your hook into the same stitch, yarn over, draw up a loop, and yarn over and pull through 2 loops. With 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. You finished off the row with a cluster stitch. You're then going to turn your work. Now, once again, we're going to continue working cluster stitches. And so for rows 3 through to 25, you're going to repeat this row 3. You're going to start by working a beginning cluster into the top of your first stitch. You're then going to work a cluster V-stitch into the next chain 1 space. So you'll find your chain 1 into the space just below it, work 1 cluster V-stitch. Skipping everything in between your 2 cluster stitches into the next chain 1 space, work 1 cluster V-stitch. Repeat this all the way across until you come to your final cluster stitch. When you come all the way across, you're finishing off your row 3 by working a cluster stitch into the top of your final cluster, which is the top of your double crochet stitch. So you have that chain 2 double crochet that made up your beginning cluster. You're just inserting your hook into the top of the double crochet and work your final cluster stitch. Turn your work, chain 2, work your beginning cluster in the first stitch and then your cluster V stitches all the way across, and you're going to continue to repeat row 3 with your cluster V stitches until row 25. So you'll have a total of 24 cluster V-stitch rows. You're then going to meet me back here. I'm going to finish off this row and then I will show you the next steps. Okay, so I've just now gone ahead and finished my repeat or my row 3 there, and you're going to continue repeating that row 3 until you have a total of 25 rows, including that single crochet. You're then going to move on to the next part of the shawl design, which if I show you here on my original, we're moving into this section of mesh double crochet. So what we're going to do for row 26, you're going to chain 1, turn your work, and for row 26 you're going to work a single crochet into the top of your first cluster stitch, into your next cluster stitch, and then single crochet into the chain 1 space. You're going to work a single crochet into each stitch and each chain 1 space all the way across. At the end of row 26, you're going to chain 2 and turn your work. Now our chain 2 here does not count as a stitch. For row 27, we're going to work a double crochet into the first stitch and into each of the next 2 stitches. You're then going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, and double crochet into the next. You're going to repeat that all the way across, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into your next stitch, repeat that all the way across until you come to the final 2 stitches. When you come all the way across and have 2 stitches remaining, you're going to finish off by working 1 double crochet into each of the final 2 stitches. You're then going to chain 2 and turn your work. Now for rows 28, 29, 30, and 31, for the next 4 rows, you're going to essentially repeat that row 27. So double crochet into the first stitch, and then double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. Chain 1, skip the next chain 1 space, and double crochet into the next stitch. Repeat that across, chain 1, skip the chain 1 space, double crochet into the next stitch, all the way across until you come to your final 2 stitches, double crochet in each of the final 2 stitches, chain 2, and repeat. You want a total of 5 rows of the double crochet mesh, and then you're going to meet me back here. Once you've worked through to the end of row 31, and you'll have 5 rows of your double crochet mesh as I have on my little swatch. At the end of row 31, you're going to chain 1, turn your work. Now just as you did for row 26, we're going to single crochet into the first stitch and then single crochet into each stitch and each chain 1 space all the way across. So single crochet in each stitch and each chain 1 all the way across for row 32. At the end of row 32, you're going to chain 2 and turn your work, and that chain 2 is going to be the start of your beginning cluster stitch. So for row 33, we're going to work a beginning cluster stitch, your chain 2, then double crochet back into the same stitch, into that first stitch, skip the next stitch, and then cluster V-stitch into the next. Skip the next 2 stitches and cluster V-stitch into your next stitch. You're going to repeat that all the way across. Skip the next 2 stitches, cluster V-stitch into your next stitch, all the way across, where you will finish off with a final cluster stitch into your final stitch. At the end of row 33, you're going to finish off with a skip the next stitch and a cluster stitch worked in your final single crochet. Chain 2, turn your work, and now for the next 6 rows, rows 34 through to 39, you're going to work that beginning cluster into your first stitch, skip the next cluster stitch and into your chain 1 space, work 1 cluster V-stitch, jump across to the next chain 1 space and work another cluster V-stitch. You're going to continue working your cluster V-stitches all the way across until you come to your final stitch. When you come to that final stitch, work a cluster into the top, turn, and repeat. You want to have a total of 7 cluster stitch rows beginning from that single crochet row. That will bring you through to the end of row 39, and you can meet me back here. At the end of row 39, you will have your 7 rows of cluster stitches. For row 40, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. We are coming near the end, so for row 40, we're going to work 1 row of single crochet stitches, single crochet in that first stitch, and then into each cluster stitch and each chain 1 space all the way across. At the end of row 40, you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. We have 1 more row to work. This is going to finish off our shawl with a picot stitch edging. So what we're going to do is for row 41 is you're going to work a single crochet into the first stitch. And you're then going to work a picot stitch. To work your picot stitch, you're going to chain 3 and then slip stitch back down either into the 3rd chain from your hook, or sometimes I like to work right through the post of the single crochet down below. And you're just going to slip stitch into that stitch. When I work into the post, I feel like I get a little bit of a tighter picot, which I prefer. So either into that 3rd chain or into the post of the single crochet, it's up to you. You're then going to work a single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and then work 1 picot stitch, chain 3, and slip stitch back down into that first chain or into the post of the stitch below. Repeat that all the way across, single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches, followed by a picot stitch all the way across. When you come all the way across at the end of row 41, you're going to have worked picot followed by 3 single crochet. You're going to finish off the row by working 1 more picot stitch and then single crochet just into your final stitch. You can then go ahead, fasten off, weave in your ends, and then the bottom lace edging is now complete in your shawl, and that's all there is to working the beautiful Long Island shawl. So thank you so much for joining me. Once again, while you're here, I invite you to take a look around. Don't forget to subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Until then, happy crocheting. Bye.